Hi, how are you? Good. So happy to be here. So my name is Guillermo. I go by Memo. I'm the head of the East Coast and Latin America for Silverpush. So yeah, Janetta couldn't make it today. She canceled last minute for personal, I don't know, something happened. Then Nilu is she was gonna be here, where is she?
Get on the screen.
Oh.
Any second now.
If not, it's gonna be an interesting panel by myself.
Yeah.
I can try to screw it up with you again if you want.
They want to hear more about Silverpush.
Yes,
so, while we wait. So, have you heard about AI? So that, yeah, this year the year of mobile of AI. So we are an AI AI technology, and what we do, we analyze in video contextual. We do contextual targeting in video. So what we do, we analyze frame by frame all video online. Let's picture YouTube, programmatic, or CTV. We can identify faces, logos, emotions, objects, audio. You listen to the audio as well. Places, and we can target based on those signals. We call them triggers or signals, and we can target that way. So it's 100% hyper-contextual company. So, Nilu's not here yet, so they're very happy to talk to you today about AI and multicultural. So, I've been doing multicultural for about maybe 20 years already. From the agency side, I spent 10 years at an agency, data, programmatic, and now AI. So I think this is a very interesting point of time because we're talking about AI, we're talking about multicultural, we're talking about something that is very important to the space. And so, not here yet. Multicultural, as you know, it's getting more traction than ever. And I see that happening, but there are many challenges today, especially because the cookies are going away. And we have to find new ways of finding the multicultural segments, talking about US Hispanic, Black, AAPI, or LGBTQ+. So, sorry, English is not perfect. I think you can see that. So, I guess, I don't know what to say anymore because my panelist is not here. Talk to me about who's doing AI? Who's doing AI? Okay, who's doing multicultural? I think we need to do more multicultural.
1.8%, come on, that's terrible.
It's terrible, yeah. We talked about already how we need to do a better job at multicultural.
It's true.
Yeah.
So how are you seeing the differences in expenditures in Latin American countries versus US spending? How do you diversify the focus across your audiences? And do you feel like you're doing a better job in Latin America than we are in the US?
That's a good question. No, usually Latin America is a bit behind the US. The US is the #1 market in many ways. When it comes to marketing or digital or data, the US is the #1 around the world. So I think the US is ahead. When it comes to multicultural, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to targeting these segments. It's more sensitive than ever. To target this segment, but there are ways of doing it, and I think the industry is getting better at it, and there's more education happening. So I guess, like I mentioned before, now I think the marketeers, the advertisers, do know that targeting the multicultural segments is important, and they're trying to find ways of doing it.
I loved one of the comments that we heard at the last panel about how, I think it was the Colgate example, where you have to understand the different cohorts' interpretation of the word, of the content, of the keyword, and apply that accordingly too. From my perspective, it seems that it starts on the inside of a company. How are you finding some of your clients' hiring practices with diverse voices?
That's a really good question. So, like I mentioned before, now because of data privacy is getting harder to really put a label onto what advertisers or agencies are doing overall. So I think that keyword targeting, behavioral targeting, it's just too old, I guess, in the ways that we are utilizing it. That's why I believe that agencies and companies or advertisers with first-party ID data, cookieless data, that's something important, but that's not enough in my opinion. I think that, not because I'm doing contextual, one of the reasons why I came to this company 4 months ago is because we're doing contextual advertising in ways that nobody's doing it, and I think that has a lot to offer to the space on how you layer first-party data that companies are, using to target. How do you layer that into contextual advertising to really understand around the purchase funnel where the dollars or where the ROI is, and I think it's a combination of many elements when it comes to targeting this segment. So, I mean, this is not commercial, but companies, again, because it's harder to target multicultural segments, we created something called adaptive segments where we use passion points. We created personas around multicultural segments, and also we added something called passion points. So we identify different passion points and personas across US Hispanics, Blacks, AAPIs, or Asian consumers in the US, or LGBTQ plus. So we identified these segments based on passion points and personas, and it's a really good way of really being in front of this consumer.
I've heard conflicting things. I've heard that Nilu is somewhere in the background, or maybe not. But I'm gonna ask Meg to ask a question.
Sorry, Guillermo, I just wanted to ask, thinking about multicultural, because we haven't, I don't know that there's so many of us working on multicultural specifically, but we do have a large international involvement and presence, and I wonder how much of what we're doing in international could be reapplied in multicultural marketing. Similarly, how much of what we learned from multicultural marketing can then be reapplied internationally?
I like that question. So there are, as you know, a lot of cultural nuances between people that of different countries, country of origin. So to me, it's about learning about the consumer and, I'll give you an example, the consumers around the world, and see how you can, apply those learnings in the US. So just to give you an example. I was born in Mexico. I grew up in Mexico. I've been in the US for about 20 years on and off. But I keep my culture with me whenever I come to, I live in the US, but I live in New York. So I keep that cultural. So when it comes to my kids, my family, we keep some traditions as well. So if you did marketing in Mexico, which you do, I know, how much do you understand about Mexican consumer, and how do you bring that into the marketing that you are doing in the US? That would be, I guess, to me, a really good way of doing it. And when it comes to data, a lot of, I'm talking now about US Hispanics, I consume content from Mexico in the US. So when it comes to data, you can track who is consuming content in different countries. So it could be sports, could be, entertainment, whatever. So how do you find, how do you learn more about that data as well? Those would be two easy ways of
So
finding this.
there are verticals, so, sports, news, drama might be consumed differently. What about the actual channels or the media? So are you finding out of home is reaching more diverse voices? Are you finding CTV? Are you finding podcasting? What's your experience with the media mix and multicultural audience?
Good question. So, going back to the culture, going back to, I'm here in the US, so understanding that consumer, for example, social media is important for multicultural segments because, especially the US Hispanic or Asian communities, I share a lot on social media because I have friends and family outside the US. And obviously that's a way of sharing, a little bit of my life. So understanding how do we, so Hispanics are indexed in terms of social media usage. Also some TV, but in language TV. Can talk more about multicultural or US Hispanic. I could talk for an hour.
Well, lunch is gonna be ready in about 30 seconds, so
Okay.
you only have to fill for that much longer.
Good panel.
Doing
Love it.
amazing, though. How about it? Guillermo?